I'm literally only filming from this far because I want you to see my outfit. I know you care so much. And this is actually a prompt. I'll talk about it in a bit. And this is not actually like a review of the show as much as it is just me explaining why it's good. Conversations with Friends will be the most misunderstood show of the year. Let's talk about it. Conversations with Friends is a TV show adaptation of the 2017 novel by the Irish author Sally Rooney. The show is primarily focused on its protagonist, Frances, as she is navigating some complicated relationships in her early adult life. She is best friends with Bobby, who is both her first love and ex-girlfriend. You can already imagine the interesting dynamic this relationship brings into the story. Then together they meet an older couple, and by older I mean older only from the perspective of youth. Bobby and Frances are still in college, while the couple is in their 30s, successful and married. They live in a very nice house in an idyllic area. First and foremost, we need to understand that this show has a very specific target audience. The show is a psychological drama, and taking into account the genre really helps you manage your expectations. Let's take a moment now to talk about Sally Rooney, the author of this book and the creator of this character. Sally Rooney really understands the inner workings of my wretched heart. I don't know what that tells about me, about who I am and who I want to be. Reading her works is always like listening to my own intrusive thoughts, repeated back to me, only articulated in a way that I would never be able to express. I need to address the criticism that she receives, and why I personally feel like I could debunk every single claim. Her books are so widely loved and so furiously hated, and that's simply because you either get it or you don't. You either have been in those characters' shoes or you're not cut from the same cloth. And it's not your fault, and neither is it mine. I have the deepest admiration for authors who are capable of writing the most embarrassing and shameful thoughts in a way that feels nuanced and creates empathy for the characters. And in general, my favorite type of narration is stream of consciousness, so you understand why her work is always right up my alley. I have a bone to pick with the way people misuse the word pretentious. People very flippantly tend to call pretentious that which they do not understand. I see it often being used when somebody is expressing intelligent thoughts, even when the person is expressing their thoughts casually and in a non-condescending tone. And I find that depressing, honestly, because I only care about someone's thoughts and opinions only if they are intelligent. Seeing people villainized for being educated and well-spoken and deep, for the lack of a better word, is genuinely sad. I find it comforting to read books written from people who are smarter than me. I like looking up to them and passively learning new things, or developing interests in subjects I would otherwise not be gravitating towards. Being intelligent is not something that she should have to apologize for, and not being as smart as her is something we shouldn't feel bad about. I think it's always good to be humble and know where you stand intellectually. Just because she's addressing interesting, complex, and well-rounded topics, it doesn't mean that she's trying to flex to us plebs. There's people like her out there, and it's refreshing. She's a real human with real interests. I can understand if you don't enjoy reading books like that. I just hope that you can add some nuance to your criticism. John Green is also known for being violently hated for being pretentious, which is an offensively, blatantly disrespectful way of discrediting all the work he has done elevating the standards of YA literature. Okay, back to the show now. The experience of watching the show was like a simulation of a heart attack waiting to happen. And the way that I described the experience of watching the show to my friend was like as if I tore my own skin and then I fried it in a pan as if it's bacon while staring at the dirty kitchen wall. After finishing the whole show, I felt so depressed that I wanted to myself, to the point that I went out of my way to go to the gym. I would have gone anyway, but like I felt the need to go to the gym and run on the treadmill for like half an hour in full speed just to actually force endorphins to be produced into my body, because I felt so depressed that I wasn't able to function. And after I left from the gym, it was raining. And when it rains, usually I wear like double hoods, like a hat, like I'm super focused so it doesn't get on my glasses. But on that day, have you seen the stereotype of like a sad girl, and when it's raining she's just like letting the rain hit her? I genuinely took my glasses off, took my hood off, and walked all the way home, letting the rain hit my face and just absorbing it. Like, that's how depressed the show made me, and I didn't recover for like a good 3 days. It was also because I was like rewatching the show obsessively just so I can actually write this. I take responsibility because it was my mistake binging the entire series back to back. 12 episodes of agony and pain were a bit too much for my delicate psyche. I read the stupid article describing it as a show where nothing happens, which is honestly such a deeply idiotic statement that I almost feel bad for the journalist. But not bad enough to not blast their name all over the screen. Okay, I can feel myself becoming a bit aggressive. I want to very violently defend the show, but I take nothing back. I am very defensive when I feel like people are hating on something purely because they haven't bothered trying to understand it. Ignorance truly unsettles me. I don't like it when people want to loudly voice their opinion on a piece of art based on emotions rather than facts. I have made this mistake in the past. I'm not trying to criticize you, but this is your last warning. On this show, something is happening at every single scene, at every single shot of every single scene. There is no filler, there is no fluff. There is a constant overload of feelings and thoughts. I don't want to believe that our brains have been so conditioned to overstimulation that we're incapable of reading people's emotions through the screen, like without needing like a voiceover explaining every single point. Context is important. This show is a psychological drama. It is about the main character's, Frances, psychological journey as she's coming of age. That is what you're watching. That's the whole plot. That's what's happening. I genuinely fail to see how you could miss that. You can say that you find psychological dramas boring. Fair enough. That's not the genre that you enjoy, which is your personal opinion to which you're entitled. But you cannot go out of your way to go and watch a psychological drama depicting a realistic and raw portrayal of a young girl's life and complaining that there is no plot. The plot was not the point. The point of the show was right there at the title of its genre. It mistakenly took for granted that people would understand what it's about. It is exactly like Normal People. The only problem is that a lot of the people that watch Normal People watched it for the romance and the love story and not the actual themes that it explored. They just enjoyed it as a story. And that's valid. I'm not gonna tell you what you're supposed to get out of a show. I also perceive it as a love story. But it is important to understand that it was not a love story, but a psychological exploration of what makes us who we are and how we perceive the love we think we deserve and all the things that led us to those conclusions. All the things that happened to us and how they affected the image of ourselves. There is truly a heartbreaking scene in Conversations with Friends which perfectly explains the psychological state of the character and everything that has led her to make the choices that she has made so far in life. I feel so seen by this passage. It really breaks my heart. This is a snippet of a short story that Frances wrote about her breakup with Bobby and how she perceives Bobby as a person in general, specifically in comparison to herself. I like to imagine that I am her. Her wrists are slender and she has long, elegant hands. She has better posture than I do and a memorably beautiful face. I find myself believing that if I looked like her, then nothing bad would ever happen to me. The show does discuss a lot of similar themes with Normal People. However, we come into the story from a different point in time and it doesn't really hit the exact same beats. The show is extremely immersive. If you're actively watching it, I feel like it will deeply affect your mood until you finish it. Many parts of the show are filmed like a documentary. It's very minimalistic. You feel like a fly on the wall, almost like an intruder. So 6 episodes in, I reached a massive plot point in which one of the characters feels some intense stomach pain. An entire episode was dedicated to it, actually. And 5 episodes later, the character got their diagnosis. So, while I was watching the episode, I was feeling really bad for the actress for having to go work on set while she's feeling so sick. I kept thinking how hard it must have been trying to act and remember her lines while feeling all this pain and trying to mask it. Only in the end, when the credits roll, was I able to realize that I'm watching a show, that her pain is not real, and that the actress is probably incredibly happy. She's on set working on a show that she considers will be her chance on her big break. She did such a great job embodying this character that she makes it disturbing to watch. I am genuinely afraid to watch any interviews of hers. I have no idea who this actress is. All I can see is Frances. She is genuinely possessed by the character that she's portraying, and there's nothing of hers that's exposed to the audience. For the sake of being fair, I do need to express some criticism. I'm not usually the person to jump and say, the book was better. But in this case, I am somewhat puzzled by the adaptational choices they made for the show. I think it might be because of running time. I feel like it only covered 50 to 70% of the book's depth, and that is honestly a shame, considering how much content there was in the source material. But taking into account how difficult it is to finance such hard-to-sell products, I understand why it would be impossible to get greenlit for more episodes. And seeing how the show is received, I'm sure validates their decisions. If I had the chance to do some minor changes, what I would edit on the show would be the following. I would add just one single episode between episode 11 and 12, 12 being the last episode. I would allow Frances to go through her full mental breakdown, see her at her lowest point, and just spend 30 minutes of the entire episode finally understanding her character and where all of the pain comes from. I would also, of course, include the scene where Frances and Nick are in bed and she is in pain. That was very important context in order to be able to understand how she was able to conclude that her body was not going to be good enough for him anymore. And finally, for the last scene, I would keep it exactly identical to the book. It is similar and yet so different to the point that I would consider it my biggest disappointment. And to make sure that I didn't have a false and romanticized recollection of the last scene, I went back to the audiobook and listened to the last chapter 5 times in a row, and my memory of it was not false. And even just a couple of lines of dialogue taken directly from the book would make a massive difference to the script. I really do not understand why they were cut. It truly belittles the entire moment. In conclusion, I believe that Conversations with Friends is a great companion to the show Normal People. Shows like these are very rare to find. And although the experience of watching them is extremely emotionally draining, I think they also remind us of how it feels to be alive, of having complex emotions that you do not understand, and having difficulty navigating this very busy world of ours. If we stopped constantly moving forward and hustling to get more success and recognition so that we can afford bigger and better things, maybe we will be able to find time to go back to the basics and observe ourselves and our wants and needs. If you can hear the drunk people from outside, I'm sorry, it is Friday, and this is the UK. On that note, there's something that made me skeptical about the way alcohol played a role in this entire show. It almost felt like it was part of every single scene. Characters would reference it as something that they need, something that they want in order to function or have fun in social situations. They were constantly holding it, and it was even the reason in why the characters are connected at the very last episode. So, slight spoilers about the last scene of the show. Nick mistakenly calls Frances, thinking that he's calling his wife to ask something about grocery shopping. In the TV show, he calls her and he just says to his wife, "Do we need any wine?" And why is that curious? I'll tell you. Actually, in the book, he's asking if they need red or yellow peppers. To change such a tiny detail in the most important scene of the entire show, I begin to think that it might have a significant role. The show actually might be doing some commentary on the way English/British people use alcohol in order to cope with their lives. As somebody who grew up in Europe and moved here in 2016 as an adult, I can tell you that me and every other foreigner feels quite uncomfortable with how much alcohol is consumed in this country. In my country as well, we like to party, we drink a lot, but it doesn't seem to be affecting us in the way that I see it affect people here. Here you see people who are like grown adults get drunk every single weekend, and that is quite depressing and alarming. And like, not even drunk at like a club, they are just going at like a pub at like 4 p.m. and they're full drunk, and they're not just drunk in a way that you see them have fun. They're drunk in the way of like, you are walking past the pub and like a 50-year-old man is just throwing up all over the floor, or like it's 7 p.m. and a girl is outside Sainsbury's, which is like a supermarket, and she's just like crouched and peeing at the floor in front of the ATM with witnesses everywhere. It's like the kind of drunk that it's sad to look at. So I'm thinking that maybe it is a slight commentary on drinking. I don't know exactly what it's trying to say other than that it happens. We don't see any characters be severely drunk in the show. I don't remember it. It's not something that like sticks out. But seeing how much it is present in every single scene, I think that it might be an element that we're supposed to notice. It's just simple context. I used to work at a warehouse, and when you would ask people what they would do in the weekends, instead of being like, oh, we're gonna go out, like have fun, they would say, we're gonna get drunk. Like that's the motive, like we will get drunk. Like, why do you need to get drunk like every single weekend? Like, is it for fun? It's not good for your health. Like, do you need to lose control that badly? Like, what's pressuring you? Like, why do you feel like you can only be yourself and have fun if you're like blindly blickety drunk? Thank you so much for watching, and if you don't like the show, please don't comment about it. It's gonna make me sad. Subscribe or else.